Governor Whitmer has invited anyone, I don't know if it's invited so much as commanded anyone who's running for president in 2020 to come to Michigan and speak directly to the residents here. It's a Twitter post on a new account created for political purposes and personal purposes. And she put a reminder to the candidates that if you want to be in the White House, you got to come to Michigan first.
Come on into Michigan. We will show you a warm welcome, and we want to learn and tell you what is important to us. This is an important election coming up, and all roads to the White House lead through the state of Michigan.
So the welcome mat is out.
Every candidate better come to Michigan and listen and learn and make sure that they earn our support. So I am rolling out the red carpet for anyone who is running for president.
State Senator Tom Barrett, the Republican from Potterville, is on our AT&T line, and we're talking not only about rolling out the red carpet for candidates, but also for businesses in the way we have in the past and maybe the way we should in the future. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Michael Patrick. I am not running for president. I just wanted to make that announcement as we start.
Breaking news. You mean at this moment or for sure?
Well, I don't think I'll ever run for president, okay. But at this moment, certainly not.
At this moment, and I don't think were his two qualifiers. Okay, we'll take you at your word. Who knows? We were just talking about the governor inviting candidates to come, and the policies in Michigan have been different over the years, where we've enticed businesses to come and offered cherries, and offered cherries for businesses to stay sometimes too. And there was a phrase during the Granholm administration, picking winners and losers. You know, what businesses do we support? Which ones do we entice? Which ones do we want? Where does that all stand now as a giant experiment? And we're not the only state that does it.
Yeah. Of course, Michigan does offer a lot of corporate incentives to companies, trying to entice them to come to our state, also trying to retain the jobs that we have in the state right now through some of our larger employers and others. And then occasionally we'll offer a grant to a company to, clean up a polluted site or something like that, a brownfield redevelopment in that instance. Some of these are for good purposes, but increasingly I've become more skeptical with a lot of them because I just don't think we get the return on the investment of the state tax dollars that we take from the residents of our state, the residents and the other businesses, and then distribute them back out to a privileged few who have, a connected political ability to advocate for that. To me, it's just an issue of basic fairness in how we handle our tax structure in our state. We take in about $850 or $900 million in business taxes in the state of Michigan right now, but we pay out about $850 million in business tax credits. And to me, that's not very fair to all those businesses paying in to only have a select few actually taking money back out.
So I'll give it two examples that were in the news quite a bit. When we had the very generous film tax credit of, I think it was 43%, for instance, people were making movies in Michigan. Governor Snyder came in and they pared it back or just about eliminated it, as I understand, and those people went elsewhere. Georgia, I suppose, would be a big spot. The trick is, if we don't do it, somebody else will, right?
Right. That is always the allegation. And yes, if you bribe a business to come here and you pay nearly half of their expenses while they're here, then yeah, I'd say that makes it a pretty lucrative opportunity to come here and do business. But that's not a lucrative way to run your state. And it's not a lucrative way to actually run your tax structure either. Imagine, for example, if another radio host wanted to come to your media market, Michael Patrick, and we said, we're going to pay half of your salary and half of your expenses just to compete with Michael Patrick, you wouldn't find that very fair. And we'll say, well, he'll bring in, all these other people to work on his staff, and there, will be all these other residual benefits that will come in. And, if we don't do it, then he'll go to Wisconsin or he'll go to Texas or he'll go somewhere else. At some point, you have to doubt the fairness of some of these tax incentives that we offer. And there's actually been a growing movement now to kind of have a multi-state compact to just disarm unilaterally. Because the big argument against this is, well, Michigan can't unilaterally disarm because we'll just see all these jobs go to other states. So there's been some traction picking up to create a multi-state compact that would say we're not going to bribe a company from one state to move to another state by putting cash on the table for them to do that. And I'm interested in seeing how we can, make that become a reality, because I think it does ultimately lead to a better prosperity for every state if we're not just racing to the bottom to erase the tax liability of any particular business that wants to come here.
It's interesting because it's not necessarily geographic in nature, as I understand it, according to MERS News. You've got lawmakers like yourself in Connecticut, Florida, New Jersey, Massachusetts, interested in a compact. So it wouldn't be like you're walling off the Midwest, for instance.
Right.
It would be a patchwork, it sounds like.
Right, and this would be something that I think would have to start out with reciprocity only amongst the states that are part of the compact with one another. If you were competing against another state that wasn't a member of that, then I don't think that necessarily the rules would apply. But again, making these multi-state compacts is very tricky. You've got to get the language right. Every state has a different tax code. For example, Florida and Texas, they don't have an income tax, but their property taxes are structured differently than they are here in Michigan. Different states have a different sales tax model than we do. So there's no one-size-fits-all, and that's a good thing. We want states to have unique, characteristics, tax code, regulatory environment, and everything else. We don't want to mandate that across the board. But it would be something that I think is worth pursuing.
We'll continue with State Senator Tom Barrett, the Republican from Potterville, with Michael Patrick Shiels on Tuesday. Right now, you've got Michael Patrick Shiels, radio stations across the state of Michigan, with State Senator Tom Barrett, the Republican from Potterville, on our AT&T line, and we were talking about the practice of handing out chestnuts to businesses to come to Michigan and so forth. And the idea is that there would be a compact where a number of states would say, we're not going to do that, so that we're not drawn to the table with a gun to our head every time a Foxconn comes around and says, you want to do business with us, you better pony up. And so, Senator Barrett, I guess if these states get together and say, we're not going to do that, is that sort of a form of collusion?
No, I don't think so. I think that states can band together in a way for their, for the people and the taxpayers in their state in a positive way. I don't think it's collusion any more than businesses going in and trying to pit them against one another. I will tell you, Site Selector magazine just published a survey of top executives from 2018 that listed their things of interest to them when they make a selection on a location for their company to go. And incentives was actually the very last thing on the list of 10. So the top 10 things they consider, incentives was the bottom. Infrastructure, workforce development, university environment, quality of life, right to work status, all of those things were listed above incentives, which were the very bottom of the list. And in 2017, they were ninth on the list. So they've moved from ninth to 10th. They're actually going, and trending in the wrong direction. So some of these states may be offering these incentives to companies that would have come to their state anyway. And then other states are offering incentives that are taking away from their investment in infrastructure, talent, and other more attractive things to businesses to put into incentives, which is actually very low on the list.
New York, Illinois, Arizona are all thinking like you that the End Corporate Welfare Act might be a good idea. New York, Illinois, Arizona, Michigan, Connecticut, Florida, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. So under this idea, that whole Amazon second headquarters derby that they put on and got a lot of publicity for, and then picked Washington and New York and basically gave up on New York very quickly. When you put the light of that into this, what comes out the other end?
Yeah, exactly. And I think when you look at it, Amazon doesn't need incentives. They're a very profitable company. They don't need incentives to come somewhere and locate in New York or Michigan or anywhere else. They're going to make it whether we offer them $500 million or $1 billion or whatever it was. I think the $2 billion range that New York was going to offer them. That's taking money again out of the better used resources for talent development, for higher education, for infrastructure. I mean, look at how much we need to invest in our infrastructure in our state that is being taken away because we're bribing businesses and putting cash on the table out there. That, again, takes from the hardworking taxpayers of my district and districts across this state and distributes it to people like Jeff Bezos, who frankly, they don't need it. Their business model doesn't require them to have that, and it's just going over and above whatever they're able to achieve on their own anyway. I want a fair and consistent tax rate for everybody in the state of Michigan so that businesses know when they come here what their obligation is going to be, and then we can attract people based on the talent that we have, the development of talent that we have in our state, and as we invest more in our infrastructure, the quality that will have. Those are the things that I think we need to focus on.